anything else goes well.
You bet. What? You bet. Who would you like to do that?
I would love to do it. It'd
Okay.
be a pleasure.
Thank you.
Father in heaven, we're so grateful for this opportunity to do this Google Hangout video conference call. We're grateful, Father, for this class and the many wonderful things we're learning. We're having plenty of technical problems. Without bless us, Father, that this might all come together, that we might be able to accomplish what we desire and have and get a good grade for our efforts. We ask for thy spirit to be with us, Father. We love thee so much and thank thee so much for thy help so many times in our lives. We're grateful for thy Son, and we say this in his holy name, even Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'm having a class call right now. Shut my door. Okay, so I appreciated you doing your, I saw your write-up. I thought that you did a good job on the overview, the summary of it, about Gaza being a war zone, the Osama Khartoum had his son get hit by a bombing. He was playing in the street and got hit. And then when he saw that he was wounded, it brought him back to, I think it said 4 years before, when his son was playing in the street and got hit and killed.
Right.
Anyway, job loss, a child having psychological problems, one of the daughters. Anyway, so the son wanting to get a gun to kill other Israelis. So, okay, so for the principles, some of the principles I thought were, like, just in looking at the basic ABCX model.
Yes.
How do you guys think this family, how do you think they perceived C? What do you think? What do you think their perception was of the many stressors that they were under? What do you think? I was kind of confused about it.
Me too.
How do you think that and you go ahead. She might be able to hear you better.
Okay. Okay, so she was asking, what do we think their C or the family's, the way the family looks at, what they look at, the cognitive, how they look at what to them. Okay. I just I'm in the call. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Bye. Hey, man, get on the. She's coming on.
Oh, good.
Anyway, I thought I have a hard time because they're Muslim, and because of their religion, I know their family structure is different.
Yeah.
And so I struggled a little bit on how to approach this, because we're looking at a Western civilization way of looking at things.
Right.
And so that was a difficulty to me. But of course, they still look at their own life in a certain way. And so I tried to figure out, that's why I said I wasn't sure what family type they fit into.
Right.
But just the little bit, I mean, it doesn't say anything about his wife. But
Yep.
The little bit that the story does tell, it talks about him losing his job and having health issues, 2 kidney surgeries, not being able to work. His brother is helping take care of the family, and he's also an international aide.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me think their life has fallen apart.
Yeah, that's how I wrote down that it seems to me like he feels pretty bleak about his life about, it seems like it has affected the family very poorly. So for C, it seems. No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to.
No.
My computer, so I didn't hear you.
Oh, you're fine. No.
I was just gonna say that as I was reading the story and listening to it, I just felt like their perception must be skewed because unfortunately this is kind of their everyday, their life, their reality. Like, they weren't always in this, but if they had suffered a loss of their son 4 years prior to an Israeli airstrike, and then the Israelis are bombing them again, like they said that so many people have experienced this, that I don't think that if they had experienced what they experienced in the context of our American daily life, I almost am going to argue that it would be maybe different, because they would be whereas everyone is kind of going through the same thing there. And so I think that in my mind, I just imagined as I was listening to the story that like everyone's just like in shock and they're just surviving. Like,
yeah.
And they're just accepting the reality as like, what can they do? This is just how it is right now.
Right.
And anyway, yeah, I don't know.
So maybe they're in, what's that word? They're stuck.
Yeah.
Maybe they're stuck.
Yeah.
And aren't dealing well because of being stuck. And of course, the perpetuation of the son dying, and they've got the big poster of him on the wall,
Yeah.
and they can never let go and heal, because they have to keep alive their hatred,
Right.
their anger, their resentment.
I remember.
That's a good point. I wrote a lot of different things, but I didn't mostly fuming. And then Zero Dark 30 was just on TV the other day.
Mm-hmm.
About the American teen killing Osama bin Laden, and in this show it shows that, you know, the parents were killed right in front of their kids, and I just said, you know, it's so unfortunate that the kids had to be there and witness that, because that's just breeding a whole new level of lifelong committed hatred, and like that kind of never ends. And so, like, the kids in this specific story, they're going to grow up to hate Israelis, and they're going to grow up to hate anyone that threatens their way of life and their religion and their whatever. And that, you brought up a good point, is I guess my point, that hatred is something that they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
If they want to properly take care of their mental and emotional issues.
Do you remember at the beginning of this semester we learned about the cognitive feedback loops that we can get in? I remember like that whole, like, where we basically you make up your mind about something, of whatever the issue is, of hatred, I hate these people, they're bad, whatever, and then when you're in that feedback loop, that's all you're seeing is proof of whatever it is you're believing. And so I think that would be a real problem, you know, a real issue of if you're stuck in this belief system, then when all these things are happening around you, it's continuously feeding that belief. And so I think, you know, to really get out of that, it would have to mean somehow breaking that loop, breaking the feedback loop, and choosing to view it in a different way, maybe in a more
some kind of counseling, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
To go through that Burns cognitive therapy model techniques.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The cognitive exposure, the hidden emotion.
Yeah.
Or maybe even biological treatments.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Jessica?
Well, I was just thinking that I wonder how common it is, or how standard it is for people in their culture to hide their emotions. It seems, I would assume that it's the cultural standard to do so, and then also because everyone's experiencing that, they probably don't feel like they're any more of a, what am I trying to say? Their case isn't any different from anybody else, and therefore, like, it's not perhaps as weighted as it really is.
I think you're right. Like, if it's
Same pot.
yes, if it's happening everywhere around you,
Then
yeah, it would be hard to. It might be hard to find help. You know.
Yeah. But I don't think, from what I know, what little I know of their culture, I don't think that it's their culture to show emotion,
Okay,
especially for the men.
that's tough.
well, they would have also recognized, like in Hill's truncated roller coaster profile, each family member is having this roller coaster pattern of personal disorganization, recovery, and readjustment. And so you see the daughter angry, the little boy.
Anger. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. So you see the little boy dealing one way, the daughter dealing one way. We don't know anything about the wife.
Yep.
And then the father, he seems like he's given up to me. I mean, he seems like a pacifist. He's just barely holding on to life.
Yeah. Well, one thing that that I think is some PTSD going on, post-traumatic stress disorder, and
oh yes,
you know, which can bring you right back to an event. You know, like it make you relive it over and over again. And
exactly. That's why they need that cognitive.
Yep. Well, what did you guys think? What did you think about the relevant risks and dangers the family and its members faced? What various risks did you guys come up with? Kathy, we've got some of yours. Possibility of more bombs, death. Israel is retaliating because of bombing on their land. How about you, Jessica?
I wrote mine down. I have to pull it up. I can't remember what I wrote. Yeah, let me pull that up.
Sure.
Family breakup, father dying, marriage problems.
I put the other children that are, you know, the father is putting the one that died kind of on a pedestal, which had no judgment, but and then how would the other kids feel? And then especially the daughters. I know that that's custom. I know that that is their culture, but I do wonder how the daughters feel, honestly. Poverty, that's a huge risk factor. Of course, they're in huge physical danger of death, of all of their possessions being destroyed. And also, I think I put down another risk of the anger of the son. That the risk of what that could grow into if it's not helped.
Would you say problems with how the father relates to each of the children?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to figure out how to write that. Okay.
Yeah.
And property damage or destruction.
Right. Yeah. Property damage, destruction. Of course, we know poverty, and just I say poverty just because of the readings that we've read about risk factors, and that's a huge one for problems in the future. You know,
How about Jessica? Did you find yours?
No, my computer is doing the weirdest things. I'm so glad I at least remember writing something about how I feel like a lot of stress or pressure will be on that son to grow up and honor the deceased son, and will feel like he needs to make his parents proud in a totally different way to, you know,
a lot of pressure.
Maybe because the parents will never let go of that the prior son, that, you know, the expectations for him will be skewed or unrealistic. Retribution, you're saying? how would I summarize that? Yeah.
I think
That's a
that's
good word.
good. I think that's very true. Let's see.
I know
Any
I sent the document to you guys, but it's taking a really long time, so I'm sorry.
You sent it to us?
Technical. Yeah, I sent it to.
Oh, I didn't see that yet. So Jessica, I have to ask. Well,
I can pull it up.
I'm sorry to keep you up so dang late. That's tough.
It is what it is. It's
Oh, I appreciate you guys meeting today, though. I'm leaving first thing Monday morning, and I'm a parent chaperone on an 8-day trip to the East Coast with a bunch of high school seniors. So I'm like,
fun.
I will not
Where are you
have. We're going 2 days to Boston, 2 days to New York, 2 days to Philadelphia, and 2 days to DC. So, and I live in Montana, so it's far. And it'll be intense. So I'm like, I will not have, I won't have time, where I can count on to be able to be in front of a computer. We'll be running the whole time. So kind of crazy.
Okay, Jessica, I got it. It says risk and dangers could be that each member of the family falls into deep depression.
Yeah.
Each family member could suffer from suppressing major tragedy. Each family member could face emotional neglect as they are all possibly just trying to survive. The family could start to form their life around the fear they face from what they endured and what they possibly could endure and face in the future. Fear of danger and risk could run their lives. Good points.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Those are. That's good.
Fear and hate married together, that's a really volatile combination.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why we're in the situation that we're in internationally right now.
Yeah, it's explosive.
Yeah.
People react instead of acting. Yeah. What about the relationships?
So I don't know what the women consider more a good marriage. Like this thought to question for me. I don't think that women in that culture necessarily gauge relationships in the way American women do. We have a lot of liberties.
Yeah.
In defining what a marriage is here, and I think they're Muslim, a good husband and a good marriage, not necessarily in totally different terms, but they just, if he's a good provider and if he's committed and he, is Muslim and he respects that, then that's a good husband. I don't think that she's in position to demand that they share emotional closeness, and maybe that does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I don't know if she's in a position to demand that. So I don't know in that case if that's just a common in marriages there.
But
what is the role definition of a good marriage on them?
Hasn't our past said marriage is the most important thing to worry about, right, Jessica?
What was that?
Hasn't our past readings talked about it's the number one consideration is marriage?
Yeah.
So.
But we have to know what a good marriage is. And
right. It might look different there.
Each culture, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to go further. But also, I was thinking with the new baby, I know the baby can't take the place of the child that died, but babies bring joy into a family. They're cute, they're sweet, they laugh.
They can. They early. I watched a documentary once about I forget the name of it. I think it was called "It's a Girl," but I can't remember exactly if that's correct. But it was about this woman who had, and story, or showing this in the documentary. There were all these women that were so impoverished, and they kept having babies that they weren't in a position to even enjoy the joy that a baby would bring. They were killing their babies.
Jeez.
Because they couldn't afford them. They had no resources. So again, I would defend that even though we as white LDS Americans believe that that's a joy and that's a good thing, and we believe that will affect what we believe onto them in their situation and expect them to be like at the standard of what we define to be the gold standard. I don't know. It brings into good question. I don't know. But I guess within the context of this class, that, yeah, the marriage should be the most important thing, and we should try to help it be as healthy as possible.
Yeah. You know, one thing that is an unknown, but in that short little, 4-minute recording, you know, of the story, he talks about his daughter, he talks about his son, you know, wanting a gun. He doesn't mention his wife at all. No mention at all of his wife.
She's pointed out already, yeah.
What was that?
She's already pointed that out, yeah. There was no mention of the wife.
So I just wonder,
so,
and I don't know. I don't know if that means that, you know, is she not on the forefront for him? Is he trying to protect her by not saying anything about her? I don't know. But
it could be any of those things.
Yeah. We don't know. I would just say that is a definite relationship thing, you know, to look at. We don't know though, you know, and I think Jessica, I think.
With what you're saying.
What, Kathleen?
It's something we normally would look at.
Yeah.
As a therapist.
Right. Yeah. I think Jessica's right though, that, you know, we have such a culture now, especially, I mean, even more than 20 years ago, you know, of getting help, of reaching out, of talking about things, of sharing our issues so we can work through them. That's a fairly recent thing, even for America, you know, to be as transparent, and I think it's a great thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. But for cultures like that, where it is more closed, we're in a crisis situation where everyone is in crisis. I mean, they're all in war. I don't know what's perceived as normal.
I think that the principles and the techniques that we've been learning definitely should and could be applicable to them.
Right.
Would it be effective? I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I think you understand what I'm saying. Would it be in our cultural context?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Like, it has to be accepted by the person who's receiving it, or it won't do a thing, you know? Right. And
what does our teacher expect of us? When we...
Well, I think that we are doing what we should be doing. I think that we're just branching off in an interesting conversation about that, but I think we should just continue to apply the principles of the class that we're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I had several other ones I put.
But maybe, just as a side note, maybe you could just write that, like, we're very aware of the cultural context and how our ideas of marriage may be different than theirs. Yeah.
Honestly, I think I liked that this case study was a different culture. It made me think differently.
It was refreshing.
It's completely different than anything we've looked at. And I think that's more real with the world we live in, that there's so many different cultures and factors. And if we're trying to be professional, we have to be willing to look at all of them. And, you know,
of course.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, Kathy, what were some of the other relationship issues that you thought of?
Okay, so the father's relationship to the daughter and to the son, I looked at be working with their children to alleviate the fears. The daughter, well, I've learned that anger is a sign of fear. So she is angry because she's afraid. And so she needs to have help to deal with her fears. and that will take the anger away.
How does that happen when two parents are afraid? That's an interesting. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's why they need outside help.
You're right.
Truthfully.
True. You're right.
So that's a relationship that needs to be worked on. The father needs and the mother need to work with the daughter to aid her to overcome these fears. And of course, bombing's going on. I mean, he says they go and sleep in the stairwell when so they don't know when the bombs are going to come. So they're living in a life of fear because they don't know when the next bomb is going to come.
Yeah.
Also, the relationship of the father, since I don't know much about the mother, with the child Muhammad, Matmoon, or however you say it, needs to be worked with about the killing. But again, is their culture that's okay?
I know.
I mean, in our culture, you would say you don't want your child to grow up wanting to kill.
Right.
So that was another thing I put, and then that the father, his relationship to his whole family, he needs to recognize that as the family leader in the Muslim family, that his children will model his behavior. His wife will give in to whatever he thinks, to a degree at least. So if he perpetuates hate, then there won't be a healing. You're right. And so anyway, those were some things I wrote. How about you guys?
Would you mind writing mine since it's open? Mine's stuck. Like it's keep turning.
Let me click over here. Okay. Thank you. The relationship of the new son named after the former has shoes to fill in a way. The parents will always look to that son and think of him as another son. This may put additional unrealistic pressure on the new son to be more than what he is. Also, he may be favored a bit more than the other siblings, as he is the new son and in memory of the deceased one. The siblings could become jealous of that factor. The marital relationship may be in danger as mom and dad will most likely process the pain and stress of it all very differently. And that's a good point, that last one. I mean, all of them were good points. But a death of a child is the highest stresses that cause divorce in one of my marriage and family. It almost happens when a child dies that the parents get a divorce. It's very common.
Last year, I listened to an NPR interview of one of the Columbine shooters. And if you remember that story, they shot everybody and then they killed themselves.
Yep.
And so it was a really tragic and compelling interview. And the takeaway, I think, was that she said that she and her husband 15 years, and after that, they got to a point where they said, we have been traveling down two very separate roads because we have processed this and dealt with this so differently that we don't know each other anymore and we have nothing to connect on. And so they went their separate ways. And I thought that was really interesting. And they stayed together for 15 years. You would think that after 15 years, they would have done something.
Wow.
But they chose to do it. That's a definite danger anytime something like that happens. And you said that's probably the number one biggest.
I had it's been about, let's see, it's been 8 years now, and one of my best friends, her son walked out the back door when he was 22 months old. She had fallen asleep for 20 minutes, and he walked out the back door and stuck his head in a soccer net and couldn't get his head out. And in that short time, he got himself all strangled up, and her husband called me and said, Andrea, there's been an accident. We don't know if Matthew's dead or alive. And my friend Ava was being held at the police station for questioning. He was on the way to the hospital. She was there, and he asked me if I would go be with her. It was awful. I mean, I had a little boy the same age, also named Matthew, who's now 11. And it was just horrific to watch. He died. He died. He lived for 2 days completely on life support while they tested and everything. And then they determined that his brain stem was gone. He was gone. And so they unplugged and he died. And, being there watching so closely, they dealt with it so completely differently, and they are divorced. They got divorced. And in the end, it's Michael and Ava, my friends. And in the end, Michael, he went down the list of who to blame. At first it was the police, the emergency responders for not getting there fast enough. Then it was the net, the makers of the net. He sued them. Then it was, just on and on and on, on and on and on. And then finally, who was last to blame? Her, and he blamed her, and he blamed her for negligence.
She was already blaming herself.
Oh my gosh. Oh, she, I was there with her at the police station. She was, I mean, you can imagine any mother would be that way. It's awful. It was, hellish to watch, just to even be there. It was awful, awful, awful. And, she was so hard on herself and beat herself up. And then in the end, to have her husband turn around and blame her, and they didn't make it. They are divorced, and it's not good. Like, it was an ugly, ugly divorce. And, so that is a very real risk, that trauma can make you do some things,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think you definitely have to put work in to happen.
yes.
And maybe people just don't want to at that point. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if there's any inkling of two people wanting to work it out, you have to put work into doing it.
Yes.
To make it work.
Right.
And that's through counseling, and that's through cognitive-based therapy, and that's through marriage counseling, and that's through talking about your feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did we skip over the list penalties presented to the family as a result of crisis?
We didn't discuss them.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
That was before this one.
Okay.
Oh, did I skip one?
Yeah.
Oh, oops, I'm sorry. Okay, well, let's do that. Opportunities. Sorry about that. Relevant opportunities presented to this family as a result of this crisis. Okay, let me find my list here. I put an opportunity to grow closer, to learn how to communicate better, to appreciate the blessings that they have in being able to have another son, learning how to self-soothe, in the midst of crisis, learning how to soothe themselves. And that goes for every member of the family, because they all, except we don't know about the mom, but we know about the daughter, we know about the son, that they all, I think, could use help with learning how to cope. One thing I thought of is just they have an opportunity for financial growth because they're at the bottom, so there's an opportunity for growth there. So what did you guys put? I see yours, Kathy. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Opportunity to forgive and heal. Kathy. That was Kathy's. Kathy put community support. Father give international aid. And family resources, brother helps financial and emotional support. Okay. How about yours, Jessica? Do you have it there, Kathy?
Yeah, she's really experiences the family can take the tragedy it faces and turn it into triumph. They have the opportunity to make the most out of what they have and turn it into a success story. They can turn outward and share their story with others. By doing so, help others who have gone through this similar. Because didn't his brother have a child that died too, or that was hurt in that bomb?
He was injured badly. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So they could give solace to other people that have experienced this.
Oh, that's a good one.
They have the opportunity to enjoy each day together more fully, even in horrific circumstances. They know the value of each day for each human life. So it makes I guess what Jessica's saying, it makes their life richer to have each other, because life is so unpredictable. You don't know, so enjoy it, I guess, right? Just
they find the value in each day that they have together better or more easily, because they know how fragile life is in that circumstance.
Yep. I agree completely. I personally, it's hard to compare like our kind of cushy American life to this kind of story, but I definitely think people are people, and that there are opportunities for growth in any situation,
I did feel a little bit ignorant as you were kind of presenting on, like, reviewing it, because I mean, I've had challenges in my life, but nothing comparable to what they're going through.
Yeah. I have a little,
So I feel ignorant.
I have a little bit of understanding. I was married for 16 years, and 3 years ago my husband was killed in a car accident, and I got remarried 8 months ago to a man who lost his wife to cancer after a 6-year battle of cancer, and we have 11 children between us, and 10 of those kids live at home, and I'm going to school. So we have 10 kids living at home, and okay, so very real life. Okay, today my husband's deceased wife, today she would have turned 40. Today's her birthday. And so I feel like I'm kind of in a situation where all the time there's these things that come up that part of my story that I can't really shade over is that my husband, we met at Ricks College and got married in the temple, and throughout our marriage he became more and more involved with things he shouldn't be involved in, and he died because he was drunk and crashed into a tree. So there's been a whole lot of grief and loss and all kinds of a wide gamut of emotions. And so, and I have six of my own, and now 5 more, and all of their grief of going, what the heck, what did our dad do? He was a lawyer for Google when he died. He was very successful. He had everything going for him, and he just trashed his life, like trashed it. I found out about strip clubs and just all kinds of things. He destroyed his own life. He was 39 years old when he died, and just trashed his life and left me alone with 6 children. And and so in reading stuff like this, I honestly still feel like I don't have a clue, because day to day, I'm not worried about a bomb hitting my home and my children dying. I'm not worried about how I'm going to eat, you know, things like that. But I definitely understand, even reading the title of this week's thing about how we can be brought back, you know, how I can't, what was the name of it? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like how we can,
Yeah, the current event makes you remember the past.
yeah. And you know, that's,
Deja vu.
yeah, deja vu. And that is very, very real. That's very real. And for my husband too, you know, and it's probably something we will live with for a long time. But
Wow.
anyway, so I don't know.
You have my respect.
No.
That is an incredible story.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been quite a ride. But I do very much believe very strongly in the reality of taking really hard things and doing things with them that we would not have done before. I don't know if that makes sense, but like growing, taking tragedy, taking really hard things and using them to help other people, using them to, you know, in the crucible paper, you know, that we had to write this week, I wrote about my kids and how, you know, they had to see, like, I remember after he died, even though I was just like, it was, oh, I can't really describe, like, but I had to put on a face of bravery, you know, because they understood that my kids were watching, and that if I didn't act like there was hope, that we were going to be okay, where were they going to get that, you know? And so it does. So there are lots of miracles and things in there of things that gave me strength to do that. A lot of things. But anyway, I just.
Well, that sounds like you took tragedy and are making it a triumphant.
Well, I'm happy. It's nice to be married to like a simple, good man, you know. It was rough. It was rough. And so it's.
It doesn't have anything to hide.
What was that?
I said that it doesn't have anything to hide.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yep, exactly. So, okay, so the other thing was, okay, we already did the relationship considerations. What about the coping strategies? What do you guys think?
Again, I would love to hear both of what you said and questioning. Are these people really like writing down? Maybe they are. Maybe I shouldn't assume this, but I'm thinking with all these bombs going off near their home, are they really finding time in their day to like sit down,
Right,
meditate, write their journals?
yeah.
Or I mean, they're in shock. Like
Trying to survive.
I wrote down those things. I wrote down like having family council, and I loved how Kathy put it. You know, the father should be taught how to do how I was going to say, but I mean, I would love. I think I wrote down that I would love to know. I would love to ask them what they think their coping strategies are.
Yeah.
I would love to have them answer that question and teach me.
Right. Like in serious, like life or death situations, how do you survive that? How do you?
Yeah. How are you? Yeah.
Emotionally.
They're going into the stairwell to sleep.
Yeah.
There's a couple. But there's got to be things that they do daily. The way they look at life, their schema, or how do you say that? Their family.
Right.
That adaptation phase C
Mm-hmm.
In the X model. So they've got to be looking at life, or they would just roll over and die. I
Yeah.
mean, they've got to have some kind of something now.
I've often heard Muslims just subscribing to this idea that if A, B, and C happen, it's because God wills it. Like, I wonder if that's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's a religious kind of coping mechanism as well.
Yeah, I think it would be.
Higher power. Yeah.
I think that's good. Another one that I think would be very practical is like if you're sitting there with bombs going off, just knowing how to breathe. I think that could be mindfulness, learning, breathing, just breathing deeply and calming the heart rate. Remember how we learned about how slipping into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? And how sometimes breathing, just the act of breathing, can kind of bring you back down from that and not go to that spot. And so even if, here's the thing though, they are in a real flee fight, like fighting for their lives, trying to protect themselves. So they're actually in that position. But I think, I don't know, like being able to breathe through it could help. And especially moving forward, like when the cease war was ordered, is that what ceasefire? Is that what it's called? Yeah. When a ceasefire is ordered, they would have to learn, it's just like PTSD, like war vets that come back. They'd have to learn that when you hear the siren, it doesn't mean you're about to be bombed. When you hear, whatever it is, whatever the triggers are, and learning what those triggers are. It's just like anything, like, okay, this speaking from experience thing, okay? If you've been betrayed, if you perceive that you're being betrayed again, you to protect yourself, you go back to that spot of, I got to protect myself. And so I think a huge coping mechanism.
Isolation.
What was that?
Isolation. That each individual goes into an isolation for
Yes.
self-preservation.
Of this wall, right? I got to protect myself. And sometimes it's completely in your head, that you think you're in danger, and so you protect yourself. But I think that even awareness of, just an awareness of, these are my triggers. These are the things that set me off. And for this family, it could very much be certain sounds, certain smells, I'm thinking of the smells of the bombs themselves. They've got to have an odor,
Yeah.
Whatever, different. I don't know exactly what those triggers would be, but I think it would be a huge strength to the family to be aware of what those are, so that when they're triggered, they have an idea of what to do with it. Does that make sense at all? Instead of being so, and I think, counseling could really help with that. Just discussing it, opening it up, talking about, when this happens, where does it take you in your thoughts, and then learning how to stop that. Stop those.
That down spiral.
Yep. Yeah. Again,
I agree with what you said.
who knows if they'd be open to that? I don't know. But okay, so recommendations for supporting and involved parties. What do you guys think?
I'm a big fan, no matter how big or small the stressor/crisis is, of just imagining yourself in that situation as best as possible, and just thinking of what you think you would need in those situations. And that kind of brings into context, and I'm not good at this. I'm trying to teach myself to be better at it with like board members and friends. But I think that's like ground one of how I can become better at this. But then that brings into question, like, what do the kids need, and how, the parents have got to be struggling with like just providing for their kids. So like, if you have an extra jacket, you give that to them, or I don't know, you think of very basic things that you can give them, and then that helps fix more things. Whether it's resources or helping emotionally or donating your time, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think like when we do that, like when we put ourselves in their shoes and try to imagine it, one thing that it can do is it takes away the judgment. You know, you're not sitting there
Yeah.
judging the big huge mural on the wall of their son, what he might look like when he graduates, you know. I thought that was
Yeah.
it's a little odd, you
That was
know.
really interesting.
But
Yeah.
I think when you really try to step into their shoes, it can take some of that judgment away and go, you know what, I'm just here to help. I haven't walked that walk. I don't understand it, but I can try to help, you know?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Like, like for me, I've been married for 12 years. I haven't been married for 16 years, so I haven't even been married that long. And I only have one kid, and as far as I know, my husband's not an alcoholic. But like, I don't know the things that you felt or experienced, but if I just say something like her husband just died, a tragic death, and she has 6 kids, I bet she needs
Right.
I don't know,
Mhm.
clothes or babysitting or just like a day to herself or
Yeah.
something.
Mhm. Yeah. I think you're right.
Like, what were the things that you needed in that moment? Right, like the week after that happened, what did you need? Obviously, you were dealing with arrangements for a funeral, but
yeah, in addition to that, like, just I needed people helping me out with my kids because there was a lot of just planning, you know, things like that, errands to run. You know, it was meeting with all the different people, and it was, but I think for one huge thing for me was people who just said, Andrea, I know you probably need a moment. Let us just take the kids and you have half a day, you know, to just process. And the thing is, it was good for my kids too, because it got them out of their head. It got them having fun and laughing and being with their friends. And you know, so that was a huge one. Meals helped a ton because who wants to cook when you're dealing with a crisis? You know, nobody. um you know, those were the first things. Just, you know, just people, you know,
what
people.
would you say? What would you add to this, Anthony?
Well, let's see, what did, excuse me, let me pull up mine.
Okay.
So I catch yours up. Okay, recommendation to support involved parties. I talked about what the father might need, since he's the head of the family and the Muslim religion is very strong. Perhaps he needs an opportunity to get some different training.
Yeah, I liked that. Mm-hmm.
Maybe something to point him in a different direction. Men look at life a little different than us women, and one of the things is that their ability to work is who they are, and so perhaps he has issues about his own self-esteem because he's not able to take care of his family. He's had 2 kidney surgeries, so he's got health issues. But perhaps there would be something he could training or occupation, work that would help him.
Mm-hmm.
I also put, let's see, they have international aid already. So I just put family continuing to help. No, I've got that on the next one. Additional resources you might suggest.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the brother's already helping financially, and they're getting international aid. So my big thing was the dad needs something. I took a class on Pakistan, and we had to read that book, Malala.
Yeah.
And so it's all about their society, and women they have a pretty good interrelationship. I mean, it's like really society sisters.
That's good.
And so even though nothing's said about this, not a pretty good support system among other women.
That's good.
So
Hmm.
because we don't know for sure, I just went after the father,
Mm-hmm.
what could be done for him, and help him feel better as a provider, presider, protector of his family.
Great. I think that's good. I just put more financial help with whatever anybody can do to help support the family while the father gets back on his feet. Friendship, showing love and concern. And then another one I put is opportunities for family members to have fun. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know how readily available that might be, but I think that it could be very healing for all of them to have opportunities to laugh and have fun. So, whatever that might look like to them. And then for the last question, which was other suggestions, additional resources. Let's see, I have yours here, Kathy. Counseling for daughter, individual counseling for father, family counseling, restore order and help with roles and healing. I think that's great. Teach healing through forgiveness, dissipate anger and self-defeating hate, build better family schema and counseling. I think that's all very good. I think that's great. What about you, Jessica?
I think women want to connect with other families that have gone through that, maybe discuss what they're experiencing, because they're really the only other ones that can relate to something like that.
Yep.
you can also put to reach out to any government agencies or international human rights or healthcare organizations. You already said to reach out to the families. Keep in contact with religious groups, perhaps get involved politically. Yeah.
I just put that the family, I think, could kind of similar to what I said before, but that the family could use some time with each other, perhaps away from the physical space of their home where they've experienced these traumatic things. I don't know if that would be possible, but something like that. Opportunities to unify their family, to become more of a team rather than each of them kind of suffering in their own private way, being the parents being proactive about their situation. With that, I mean, just like what you said, reaching out for aid, reaching out about sharing their story, sharing their situation. I think that sharing can be very healing for them, and it could help other people. So, and it could land him a job just by being vocal about it. So
service is a big point then.
What did you say?
Service.
Mm-hmm.
To help somebody else when you need to go and help somebody else is healing sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. And you never know, by reaching out and serving and sharing what help could be given back. And I don't mean that in a selfish way for him, but sometimes it's true, Right. So anything else that anybody wants to add?
I think we were very thorough.
I think so too.
We've reached our hour mark.
We are good. Okay, well, who would like to write this up and submit it? I could.
Well, I'm wondering if Kathleen was kind of writing along as she was asking us like how we would summarize. Were you kind of jotting down what we were saying?
Yeah, I was adding to my list what you all were talking about.
So do you want to submit that document as the final submission?
Yeah, I could clean it up. I can't remember. Are we supposed to use this case study sheet?
Yeah. Yeah. You can use the case.
This is what we actually turn in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just put all of our names on it. Yeah.
And then what I'll do too is I will send you guys the YouTube link that is recording our talk. It doesn't have our faces on it, but it should have, it's still recording. It should have all of our discussion. And so I'll send that to you, Kathy, and you can include that with the submission, just the link to it.
Okay.
Okay?
And I'm leaving tomorrow.
You're leaving tomorrow?
I'm out of town for a week.
Shoot. Okay.
So I will get it done tomorrow.
Oh,
I've got something else I've got to do too, but
okay.
that's school, isn't it?
Yes, it's crazy to figure out when to do stuff. I'm assuming I'm gonna be.
Monday. Tomorrow's Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll do it Monday.
Well.
Okay.
Well, thank you,
Let us know if
ladies.
you need anything.
I appreciate it, and I will get you
Thank you all.
the link. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you. You too.
Andrea, could you send me your sheet?
Yeah.
Jessica sent me hers.
Sure. Yep. I sure
Okay.
can. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.